Hi friend, it's time for a garden reset. So I have a lot of things right now that are just in transition. It's that awkward in between time in the garden where there are some beds that have plants that just need to be cleared out because they're not producing anymore. There's some beds that are empty and I don't want them sitting empty. I want them producing. So I need to sow something new. And I also just have some odd things like a green stalk that's not thriving and a pokeweed that's almost as tall as me. So I know that I'm going to feel so much better each morning coming out into this garden if I reset it and get everything the way I want it to be again. Let's start with this green stalk. I'll give you a view here. Things are looking nice up top, and then as well you pan down, they're a little more rough. I've not been great about keeping this watered during this heat wave, if I'm honest, but I've also decided I don't want to have strawberries in this anymore. It's just some valuable real estate, and the strawberries haven't produced that much. I'd really like to get some cool crops, some cool weather greens like lettuce and kale in here. And I want to move this to my porch, and I just want to be able to step outside and grab some lettuce before dinner. So I'm going to get this moved, cleaned out, and planted new. Here are all the pieces. So I'm going to take out those strawberry plants that are doing well, and I'll just transplant them over into my strawberry bed. Oh, it's not focusing right now. There. I got to get my finger out of the picture. The front left bed is strawberries, so those won't go to waste. The dead ones I'm going to pull out and add to the compost pile. Then I'm going to top this off with soil and start over. It's time for the fun part. I finally get to plant. It is so humid out here. I am just dripping in this humidity, but I'm trying to just enjoy myself because it's some time alone in the garden, and that's precious. All right, here's the plan. On the bottom two tiers, I want to alternate kale and lettuce. And this is going to be on my front porch where it'll get some shade. So yes, it's a hot time of year to be putting these out, but I think it'll be okay. And then I'm going to do a tier of just lettuce because I have more of that. It's a butter crunch. And then on the top two tiers, I'm going to plant some radish microgreens. I want those towards the top because they're the smallest thing I'm growing. So I want to make sure whatever is smallest goes on top so it's still sure to get sunlight. Let's get it planted. I got this Greenstalk last summer and have learned a few lessons since I started using it. These are all lessons that I think are probably in the instruction manual, and I just don't read things like that before I begin. But I'll share them with you anyways. One I learned is that it's important that it be on really level ground. I had the Greenstalk out in my garden, which isn't very level, and just the slightest tilt meant that part of it was staying moist and then part of it wasn't really getting as much water when it was watered, and it tended to dry out. So I'll be keeping this on my patio from now on, and that way I know that it's going to be level and everything will get watered. It's also important that when each tier is filled with soil, it's filled to the very top.
This wasn't the instructions, and I filled it sort of to the top when I first planted it, but still, the soil needs to be all the way up to the very top of the tier because these stack so tightly together. And so, if your plant is sitting down in the tier a little bit, it might not be able to get enough sunlight because the tier above it might be stacked too tightly against it.
Time for the most satisfying part of planting a green stalk, in my opinion, which is stacking it back together. That sad brown, dry green stalk have been bothering me for about a month. So it is so nice to look over at the green stalk and see green things and know that it's growing food for my family and that I'm not just totally behind in the garden. Let me show you what we've planted. On these bottom two tiers are alternating butter crunch lettuces and kale. One tier up, it's all lettuce. And then the two tiers above that are the radish microgreens. So I imagine in a few days I'll start seeing little sprouts from those, and I have plenty more seed left. So every 2 weeks or so I can replant as I harvest those, and we'll just have a continual harvest. This is perfect because it's right outside my front door. So as I'm making dinner, I can just pop out and grab some salad greens or some kale, top our salads with some microgreens, and I think this is going to get a lot more use than it was getting before. Of course, that was a project that took me an hour, and I'd only budgeted about 20 minutes for it. So I'm going to try to get a few more things done today, but I can already tell my plan was too ambitious. My next priority is this empty space right here. I'd like to fill it with some broccoli.
Neptune's Harvest crab and lobster shell is my go-to for transplanting veggies. Just put a handful in the hole and swish it around. It provides good nutrients, and the shells are different sizes, so they break down at different rates, offering a gradual release of nutrients. This variety of broccoli is called Green Magic. I tried starting broccoli from seed in the spring and was not successful. So I bought this from a local nursery. This particular variety is supposed to be especially heat tolerant, so that's perfect because it is a little bit crazy to be starting broccoli in August. Broccoli is a cold weather crop, and I'm starting it at the hottest time of the year. But I really want to get this space working for me, and I didn't get any broccoli this spring, so I'm going to give this a try. I am taking a couple precautions because I'm planting this in the heat of the summer. I'm going to cover this broccoli with row cover. I have a lot of cabbage moths flying around right now, so that row cover will protect it during this time when the cabbage moths are at their worst. It'll also protect it from some of the sun that could damage the leaves, and so I'm hoping between the row cover and the choice of a heat tolerant variety, and of course some extra watering and care from me, these will be fine and will produce for me.
In together, I have a bunch of these, and I want them, I'm going to stretch fabric over them. The soil's kind of soft from the rain, but it's still hard for me. There's fabric here that you can't go through, so this is where it can go. Are you able to push them down in and I'll bring them over? Look at those orange habaneros. They ripened quickly. Isn't that cool? Broccoli. So when it's hot out, they are more likely to be susceptible to cabbage moths. There's just more cabbage moths. One in the middle. Okay. There's five. So this is going to protect them from the cabbage moths so that I don't have to constantly be spraying them. Oh, thank you. This was starting to hurt my back. Spent a lot of time crouched today. Figured it would go a lot faster for you than for me. Although it is really nice that it's rained. I mean, this is softer soil. You see that hole there? The ground wasp.
Really?
Willa, it's been coming and going. Willa saw it this morning, and when it left, she covered the hole, and it came right back to the spot and started digging it out. It knew exactly where its home was. All right.
There you go.
Thank you.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I have unintentionally trapped a ground wasp. I think I covered up his home while I was planting, and now he's searching for his home and he's trapped, and I'm not sure what to do with him. Let's see. Oh, there he is. Look at that. All right, now that he's gone, I'm going to use my landscape staples to secure this row cover and hold it in place. All right, broccoli, check. Greenstalk, check. I think I can get one or two more things done today. Let's tackle this empty bed over here. Well, this bed isn't exactly empty. It should be full, which is the problem. I planted half of this bed full of green bean seed, and only 4 or 5 of the seeds germinated. I have never had so much trouble getting green beans to germinate. I'm newer to gardening on this scale, but I am not new to growing green beans. And this season, I've planted 4 rounds of green beans that have either not germinated at all, or just a few of the many seeds have germinated. So I'm going to dig up these 4 or 5 little plants because I don't want to use a whole bed on my ungerminated seeds. And I'm going to move them to another bed where I had patchy germination of green beans. So I'll combine those two. I never transplant green beans, but I'm going to give it a shot right now because I think it's going to give me a better arrangement. And then we're going to put carrot seed in this bed. I have some heat tolerant carrot varieties, and I'm eager to get them in the ground. Here's what we're working with. These are the little resilient ones that made it. Let's gently scoop them out and get them down to the lower garden. It just started to rain. I might need to pause this project, but I want to show you what I just discovered. I'm seeing all these little green stalks with their ends are eaten off. So I think I have green beans. Like, here's another one that did germinate, and something's been eating them down to their very bottom. Oh, here's another one. And that's why I'm not seeing plants. Here's what I've got. We'll take them down to the lower garden. I'm so grateful for any rain we get right now. It's kind of been a hard summer for gardening. I'm curious if anyone watching has found it to be a harder one as well. It's just been hot and dry, but also erratic. You know, sometimes we've gotten complete downpours and then nothing for a month. This is not what I remembered Pennsylvania summers being like. If you're new here, this is my first full gardening season back in Pennsylvania after 10 plus years in Texas and elsewhere. So I'm kind of familiar with the seasons here, but also kind of relearning as a gardener. All right, so here's where they're going to go. It looks like this area is just missing a row. I'll just fill in that row. It's okay. These are a different kind of bean, but that's not a problem. I don't mind harvesting a variety together. All right, they're in the ground. That leaves that entire bed open. I'm going to put some carrot seed in there. It is a little hot for carrot seed to be germinating, so I'm going to do a couple things to help it out. First of all, I chose varieties that describe themselves as heat tolerant, but also I'm going to use a board after I water to hold in moisture and keep down the soil temperature, protect it from some of the hot sunlight.
I'm planting Pusa rudera and coral varieties. Not sure if I said those correctly. I'm using the side of this board and just pressing it into the soil to create a row so I can plant along that row. And in order to combat a bit of the heat, instead of planting the usual 1/4 inch depth for these seeds, I'm going to plant to 1/2 inch depth just so it's a little bit cooler down beneath the surface. I'm scattering the seed pretty heavily, and then once these seeds germinate, I'll come back and thin them to the proper spacing of about 2 or 3 inches apart. I just don't have the patience to try to place one seed at a time for tiny seeds like this. Once the seeds were planted, I gave them a good deep watering and then placed my boards. Each row had a board placed on it to hold in the moisture and keep out some of the heat. I'll have to look under these boards every day, and as soon as these seeds start to peak up and germinate, I'll remove the boards so the plant's free to grow.
Well, it's definitely hodgepodge, but it'll do the job, so that's fine. All right, I'm back. It's been several hours. Oh, it's been several hours. The kids got back from time with their grandparents, so I've been doing kid routines, and now they're all playing, and I'm going to try to finish a few more garden chores. Baby girl's kicking and relaxing in the shade. Kids are checking out the Greenstalk and playing with the pool. Let's see if I can get a few more things accomplished while they're all occupied. So over at this end of the garden are a few things that I wanted to clean up. One of them is that pokeweed I mentioned. I have just been procrastinating, digging that weed up. Every morning I come out to the garden and I look at it. And every morning it gets bigger. Here it is. Behind this lovely echinacea is my, I don't know, 4-5 foot high pokeweed. It's definitely past the point where I'm going to just be able to pull it out by hand. I'm going to grab a shovel and hopefully that'll do the trick. If it doesn't, I'll have to have John help me later. Oh man. There it is. I think I need to back up more so you can see it. I am so glad that this is going to be out of my life, and I have no idea why I waited so long. It's that feeling you get when you finally just clean up your room and you wonder why you let it get to where it got. I'm going to go add this to the compost pile, getting it out of my life, getting it out of the garden. While I'm on that garden cleaning high, there's another plant here that isn't technically a weed, but I just think it's kind of ugly. It's this guy right here. If you know what it is, feel free to let me know, but I just don't really want it in the garden. So I get to be queen of this garden, and I say it goes. Another one gone, and now there's more space for that echinacea, and there's actually a volunteer tomato plant that was right next to this that I think I want to support and let it grow. That has definitely created a gap in my garden. You can see there's an empty spot, so I'll need to look into some flowers. I want to rethink some of this for next year and decide exactly what I want in and what I want out. I think I'm going to feel better when I walk out tomorrow morning and I see that freshly planted Greenstalk and those broccoli plants. All right, go on, baby. Those broccoli plants planted and covered with the drip line hooked up to them, and this spot cleaned out. Now I feel no longer behind. I'm happy with this. Thanks for spending some time with me and joining me for some garden chores. I look forward to sharing more with you next week. Best of luck in all your endeavors this week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.